and welcome to Lesson 13 of HTML and CSS. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to float elements in 2 and 3 column layouts. By default, the block elements defined in an HTML document flow from the top of the page to the bottom of the page, and inline elements flow from the left side of the block elements that contain them to the right side. Now, when you create a page layout with 2 or 3 columns, you're going to usually float the elements that make the columns of the page. And I will show you an example. Here we have the heading of our. What we're going to do is we're going to make body width of 500 pixels, our section of side and footer with our margins of 0 and our padding of 0 pixels and 20, our side with margins of 0, 20, and 10 pixels, width of 150, float. We're going to float the aside that we have up here to the right, and we're going to put a border on the bottom. And this is just to float this on the side, and we've added a footer. Now to make columns, you're going to see that the width is set for the body, section, and aside. The width is the body of the sum of the width, which is going to add up to 962 pixels. After you set up the width for the body and columns, you create the columns by floating the sections to the left and right. And it doesn't matter in which order they're coded. And here's the example. You'll see that it's 962 for the whole body. And our sections are 400 height, 600 width. Then we have 360 for the width. That's going to add, and then 2 pics for the footer. And that'll add up to your 962. And we'll look at that. And instead of doing a fixed, you can use a liquid layout. And this will just, all this does is it allows the users to be able to set their browsers to any size. And it'll change the font for them. I don't recommend this. I'd rather them use a fixed one, because if they get the wrong size, your picture's going to look really funny, and I'll show you an example of that. And here's the example. It's using percentages instead of the pixel values. Then you can step it up a level and make 3 column fixed width layout. And all we did here was add 2 sidebars and a section in the middle. And here's the coding for the CSS for that. The keys for your 3 columns is to get your width right. Because, for example, you set the body of the width to 960 instead of 964. The 2 sidebars and the section won't fit into the width of the body. In that case, the section will flow beneath the left sidebar. And here we've created our code for the float. This will just float, and I've linked it to the float CSS. This is the HTML we will use, and here's the floating. It's going to float the aside, which is this part. It's going to float it to the left, and I'll show you that. And we'll go to float, and you'll see that it has moved over to the side. On the next one, we have our 2 column fixed, and we're just going to label it header, section, aside, and footer. And if we linked it to our CSS sheet, here's our CSS sheet, and we'll see there's borders that have been created on the right, and the border bottom on the header, and the body will have a border all the way around it. And let's go to that one. This is 2 column fixed. And you'll see our header, our section is floated to the left, the aside is floated to the right, and we cleared the floating for the footer to go to the bottom. And the next one we have is our liquid layout for 2 columns, and I'll show you why I don't like this one. We use the same HTML document as the 2 column and the percentages for the CSS. We'll go to liquid, and it's a mess. So I don't recommend using this one, but I thought I'd show you an example. And then we have our 3 column. And this added the header, this sidebar, section, sidebar, and footer. And there's our CSS and our 964 pixels that we've added up from our width and height. And we'll go and look at the 3 column. And the headers at the top, the sidebar and section float to the left, sidebar floats to the right, and the footer is cleared for the bottom.